Welcome in, YCN Sports Talk, Jeremy Stout, and this week I am joined by Brett Franklin from ESPN Radio 94.5 FM. Brett, thanks for joining us.
Appreciate you having me back, Jeremy.
And Brett is also the host of the Midday Show. You can listen 94.5 FM or AM 1400 or 12:30 AM, and it's always Monday through Friday, 12 to 1. So we'll get some of his sports takes right here if he didn't use them all up over the last few days, because he's a happy man right now. NBA lottery last night, Tuesday night. Celtics coming away, number one pick. Did you ever think this was possible?
I still had to pinch myself after last night's results in the NBA draft lottery, but finally the ping pong balls went the way for the Celtics, the first overall pick since 1950, before the NBA draft lottery was even invented at that point. Yeah, total surprise, even though they had the best chances. And, you know, we were talking about it earlier this week, going back to 2007, where they were supposed to have one of the top two picks, didn't end up getting it. Go back to 1997, the Tim Duncan year, where they had two lottery picks and still couldn't get the first round pick. And this is just a great time to be a Celtics fan, really, when you look at the fact that this team's still playing in the Eastern Conference Finals. Game 1 tonight as we tape this show here, and the number one overall pick. You got to like it if you're the fan of the green and white. Yeah, okay, now good segue there. You can tell he's in this business to this series, because usually you're talking number one pick and your team's not playing. We still got a series to play, Cavs and Celtics. What is the key? Do they have a shot? I know a lot of people are crowning the Cavs already champs of the Eastern Conference, but what can the Celtics do to try and at least win a game or two here in this series? That's going to start tonight for Game 1. I think that they got to come out, set the tone early, and again, the Cavs haven't played in almost 2 weeks, so it's been a little bit of a layoff. But they need to set the tone in Game 1, and they need other guys to step up and be that option. We've been talking about it all season long. You have Isaiah Thomas scoring 28 points per game. Who's going to be that second option? It's been somebody different or nobody. It's been that inconsistency, really. So they need almost a Kelly Olynyk type performance from a different guy each night, as far as I'm concerned. But I think if you can take this series to 6 and you can beat up the Cavs a little bit before they go to the NBA Finals, I hate kind of saying it like that. I do think the Cavs win this in 6. But if you can beat them up a little bit and take them down a notch, make this a physical series, I think you got to like that if you're the Celtics. You've already reached the pinnacle at this point, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and like you said, they need to have somebody have that big night. We've seen, obviously, Kelly Olynyk in Game 7. We saw Horford have a big night in one of the games earlier this year in the series. Avery Bradley scored 22 and 1/2 on his way to 26 points. So clearly somebody every night's got to step up. Going to what you just mentioned, this series is the pinnacle of what they expected. A success so far. You don't want to get swept, although it doesn't matter, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. Just leave a sour taste in your mouth at the end of the season. So maybe win 1 or 2 games, but right now you're happy. This is better than what you expected.
Oh, absolutely. I think you have to, as a Celtics fan, be thrilled with what's going on. The Eastern Conference Finals was where a lot of people thought this team should be.
Right.
And the fact that you got the number one overall pick with the draft, I mean, that's just the cherry on the sundae. And I think anything after this now is just a bonus for Celtics fans. And if you can push it to 7, I think that's a win in itself. And if you win the series, then could argue one of the biggest upsets in Eastern Conference Finals history. So Celtics have nothing to lose. And when you're a team that has nothing to lose, that's a pretty dangerous opponent. And especially with the Cavs, who we've seen on social media, they're kind of already thinking to the next round. That's not a good mentality to be, especially if you're a heavy favorite.
And, at this point in the season, everyone was saying, well, the Cavs are not tanking the end of the season, but they weren't playing as hard as they needed to get this number one seed. So now the Celtics played hard. They got the number one seed. Now they got to go out and do something with it. They get home court advantage for the first 2 games. Catching the Cavs flat-footed maybe in Game 1 is their best recipe to start the series off on the right foot.
Well, also, what if Cleveland comes out and smacks you around, beats you by 30? I mean, you want to set the tone early, and I think all the momentum right now from the Celtics playing, somewhat relatively close to Game 7.
Yeah.
I mean, again, Cleveland hasn't played in almost 2 weeks. Celtics coming off a big Game 7 where the momentum was huge and the players talked about the vibe, the building. Now with LeBron and company coming into town, you thought the Garden was loud for Game 7 against the Wizards. Wait until Game 1 starting tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Game 1 tips off tonight. Celtics really need to get off on the right foot. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk some Red Sox. They're kind of floundering in the early part of the season. As we get to almost the 1/3 part of the season, we'll get Brett's take on the Red Sox. When we come back, you're watching YCN Sports Talk.